You're listening to Living with Louie. Hi, and welcome back. On this edition of Living with Louie, we're going to discuss an area that probably many people don't ever think about, and that is sliding down the rabbit hole, if you will. That's what I call it. When you feel like everything is against you and you've lost your purpose, feeling like there's no way that there's any part of this that you can beat, or the lack of having a full and complete quality of life. For me, back in 2020, when I lost my job and was home here and having difficulty with, I would say, being confused and feeling like I couldn't finish one task before I had six others started, and my speech was suffering. Then that was the beginning for me of trying to figure out what in the world was going on. Here, when I lost my job, they said that it was because I wasn't staying on task. I wasn't completing tasks on time, although they'd never counsel me for it. But at any rate, it's that was the beginning for me of what I call sliding down the rabbit hole a little bit. And as things progressed and I started to have balance issues and ended up having to stop doing a lot of things that I enjoyed doing, it just made things worse. And then as things progressed, you can't help but feel like there's not a lot of purpose left for you, as you just don't have the faculties that you had before. And then when I got the actual diagnosis and I started to digest what Lewy body is, and started reading online about how there is no cure, there's no known real definitive way to even actually diagnose Lewy body. It seems to have come for me from a great deal of clinical observation, and then some advanced testing, and then further testing before we finally got to the diagnosis. But once we got to the diagnosis, my goodness, the prognosis for that diagnosis is just really not that bright. However, when I finally started to engage with a team of therapists, one of the therapists that came in was a social worker, and at the time, she evidently thought that I was at pretty high risk for suicide. Evidently, my wife did. My wife got rid of my guns, and so at any rate, I I don't. I know that I had sunk into a very deep depression, feeling like there was just really no purpose for me. I had no goal, no nothing that fulfilled me, and it felt like all I was going to do is kind of sit around and wallow in this depression. And then it was explained to me by this social worker that what I was experiencing, she kind of likened to grieving the loss of a loved one. And what I was grieving was the losses of everything that made my life independent, the loss of just being able to have what I call a fulfilling life. It's I couldn't play my guitar anymore. My dexterity in my hands is poor. I can't work on the things that I used to work on. I can't even do a lot of the tasks around the house that need to be done in order to maintain it. I have had to rely a lot on my sons to come over and help with some of this. And thank goodness they're willing to do that. But at any rate, this rabbit hole can be deep and it can be dark. And although I never actually thought about committing suicide myself, I will tell you that I think that, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, that you can understand how someone would. There's just not a lot of things out there that are positive. However, I decided, I don't know, maybe a month ago, that probably one of the best things that I could do, and probably one of the things that would give me a feeling of purpose, and that is to share with everyone what I'm going through, and to share with others with Lewy body, because I know that what helped me was when I started to read some of these things on the Facebook group that I belong to, started reading about some of the things that are successful for people and some of the ways that people are coping. That started to give me some hope that maybe, okay, so working with all my therapists, both occupational, to try to make my home safer, easier for me to navigate, my physical therapist that helps me immensely with trying to work on my balance and strengthening. And then we have my speech therapist who has helped me to slow myself down when I get what I think of as a log jam, where I can't retrieve the word, or I can retrieve it as far as my mind is concerned, but I can't spit it out. So she's kind of taught me how to slow that down a little bit and make my speech a whole lot better. These are the things that I would say are the rope that helped me to climb up out of this rabbit hole, was by having some success with improving my conditions here at the house, enabling me to keep some more of my independence, the figuring out how to balance better. Heck, even walking for me, I was walking out on my toes, and which is not a good place for you to lean forward and be on your toes. It causes a lot of falls, and having to actually concentrate on heel first. So my team of therapists has taught me about neuroplasticity, which is evidently the brain's miraculous way of saying, okay, so the area that these commands that are simple and kind of automatic, like walking, those commands now have to come from someplace else that's not damaged in the brain. And when I walk now in my neighborhood, I have a big walking stick that I use to help keep my balance. And I have to make a constant effort to say, put my heel down first, put your heel down first. And the other thing they want you to do is swing your arm, swing your arm. Those are things that you used to do without thinking. Now you have to think about them. But the reward of that is that now you can do it, and you can do it safer. So there are some successes that you can have. It's a matter of finding them. And I wanted to share my story with the world, because I'll give you an example. I have been reaching out to some folks online about coming on and telling their story. And I had a conversation with a gentleman who will be coming on the show, that his comment to me was that he had never had a conversation before with another person that had Lewy body. That to me, I would have to admit, was also true in my case. I had never had the opportunity to actually talk with someone else who actually was living with Lewy body the same as I am. Talking to him was pretty powerful. I know it was a powerful thing for him. It's a powerful thing for me. So I can't help but think that being able to share our stories, share our successes, this is where our strength is. This is where we find purpose. This is where we find the ability to feel needed, useful, and that we still have something to contribute. The thing that I find absolutely flabbergasting is that I have a small studio set up for this podcast in my home. And in my little home, in this little room, I've been able to reach out to people so far in 66 cities in 6 different countries around the world, and we have only just begun. For this message and for this to reach those kinds of corners of the world so quickly lets me know that there really is a need for us to share with one another both our heartaches and our successes, our stories. And I know at times I may sound like I'm a little emotional, and that is okay. Emotions are not a bad thing. Feeling emotion is what makes me feel like I'm human. At any rate, I think that this has become an important part of my life, and I hope that you're finding it to be helpful in your life as well. And again, anybody that would like to share their story, you can reach out to us on Living with Louie podcast on Facebook. And you can private message me through that, or you can find in the about information my email and my phone number. I was just really touched by speaking with this gentleman and realizing that the two of us had never talked to someone else with Lewy body, actually talked with someone. Who better to understand what we feel on a day-to-day basis than someone who is living with Lewy as well? That's to me is amazing that that can bring a sense of peace to your soul, to just know that you are not in this by yourself. There are literally millions of people that are touched by this disease, and I am just hoping that this will bring some peace to some souls that are out there that also are living with Lewy body. I would really like to thank those of you who do share your stories on Facebook, and I want to thank my therapy team. I want to thank them. It's a combination of things that have given me the rope that I needed to climb up out of this rabbit hole that I was in and back up into the light, feeling as though I was useful, needed, and that I had a purpose. I really want to say thank you to all of you that have been supporting this podcast. We are only in our 3rd episode, and for the amount of response that we've gotten, we have just been overwhelmed with joy. And so I'm glad that people can listen to this and find it to be therapeutic to them. And I hope that this can help to be the rope that you need to climb out of your rabbit hole. So I would like to thank you all very much, and we'll See you on the next edition.
We'd like to thank you for joining us for this edition of Living with Louie.